In the ancient city of Jericho, a solitary figure named Uzzah reached out a steadying hand. The cart carrying the most sacred object of his people began to sway. He intended only to prevent the holy ark from falling. He was unaware of the immense, unseen power that coursed within its golden shell. In that single, desperate moment, Uzzah was reduced to ash. For centuries, scholars have approached the Bible primarily as a collection of spiritual wisdom. It is also seen as moral parables. Yet, hidden within its ancient narratives are descriptions of objects, events, and technologies. These challenge our understanding of what was possible in the distant past. These accounts, often overlooked or dismissed, suggest a level of knowledge and power. This stands in stark contrast to the conventional view of early civilizations. If these same details were found inscribed on an Egyptian papyrus, or perhaps on a Sumerian tablet, the world might hail them as evidence of an advanced, lost civilization. But because they are bound within a sacred text, these intricate details often remain unexamined. They are veiled by tradition and belief. Consider the walls of ancient Jericho. In 1936, the British archaeologist John Garstang unearthed them. He discovered a scene that defied conventional understanding. The massive city walls had not crumbled inward, as one would expect from a prolonged siege or a natural decline. Instead, they had fallen outward, splayed across the landscape, as if an unseen force had pushed them from within the city itself. The biblical account describes the people circling Jericho 7 times, followed by the priests blowing their trumpets, and the walls simply fell. While some attribute this to an earthquake, seismic events typically cause walls to collapse chaotically. Here, they lay in a uniform, outward direction, suggesting a deliberate, devastating impact. This striking archaeological finding opens a window into the peculiar accuracy of these ancient texts. The Ark of the Covenant claimed Uzzah's life. It is perhaps the most enigmatic of these biblical marvels. The book of Exodus describes its precise dimensions: 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high, roughly 138 by 68 centimeters. Its construction was meticulously detailed, a wooden chest crafted from acacia wood. It was covered in pure gold, both inside and out. 2 layers of metal, separated by wood, an excellent insulator. Any electrical engineer encountering this description would recognize it immediately. It is a capacitor, the simplest device for storing an electrical charge. The Levites, who bore the ark, never touched its surface directly. They always used wooden poles, threaded through gold rings on its sides. This is a safety protocol strikingly similar to how modern electricians handle high-voltage equipment. The ark's power was not limited to immediate, lethal discharges. The first book of Samuel recounts an episode when the Philistines captured the ark in battle. They placed it in the temple of their god, Dagon. The next morning, the statue of Dagon lay face down before the ark. Soon after, the people of the city were afflicted with tumors and sores. As the Philistines moved the ark from one city to another, epidemics followed in its wake. After 7 months, they returned the artifact to the Israelites. They offered golden models of tumors and mice. This was a desperate attempt, it seems, to appease or mitigate a powerful, unseen influence. If one were to substitute the word God with radiation, this entire narrative could be read as the chilling chronicle of a severe radiological accident. The ark vanished from recorded history after the destruction of the First Temple. This occurred by Nebuchadnezzar in 586 BC. Yet, in the Ethiopian city of Axum, a single monk guards a chapel. He never leaves its confines, protecting what the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church claims. This is the authentic Ark of the Covenant, a sacred object seen by no one else. This unbroken chain of guardianship, spanning over 1,600 years, suggests something profoundly significant is held within. Then there is the vessel described in the book of Genesis, which compels physicists to reread its pages: Noah's Ark. Its construction is detailed with the precision of a naval blueprint. The text specifies a length of 300 cubits, a width of 50 cubits, and a height of 30 cubits. This translates to approximately 137 meters long, 23 meters wide, and 14 meters high. The critical detail is its length to width ratio 6:1. This proportion modern shipbuilders consider optimal for stability in turbulent ocean conditions. In 1993, engineers at the Korean Institute of Shipbuilders conducted a computer simulation of the Ark using these biblical dimensions. Their findings were remarkable. A vessel of this design could withstand waves up to 30 meters high. It was virtually unsinkable. But the most compelling evidence comes not from simulations, but from the physical world. In 1959, Turkish military pilot Elihan Dorukhan photographed a peculiar boat-shaped formation on the slopes of Tend Rek Mountain. This was 17 kilometers from Mount Ararat. The image clearly showed a contour. Its form and dimensions aligned precisely with the biblical description of the Ark. Measuring 157 meters in length, it matches 300 cubits. This is if the Egyptian royal cubit of 52.5 centimeters is used. Later, in 1977, geologist Ron Wyatt investigated the site. He discovered regular iron, containing structures within the formation. They were spaced uniformly like the ribs of a ship's hull. Official geology often attributes such formations to natural processes like landslides and erosion. Nature rarely creates such symmetrical shapes with precise 6:1 proportions. Also, it rarely creates regularly spaced metallic inclusions. The Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh was penned 1,000 years before the Bible. It also describes a great flood, but depicts the vessel as a cube. Engineers have calculated that a cubical ship would capsize in the first significant wave. The biblical design would have remained stable through any storm. This suggests a profound understanding of hydrodynamics. It somehow informed the biblical account, correcting the earlier Sumerian design. Standing majestically on the Mesopotamian plain was the third biblical object. Its immense ruins were only fully appreciated with satellite imagery. This was the Tower of Babel. Described in Genesis chapter 11, it was a colossal structure. It was built by people who sought to reach the heavens. The text states that their languages were confounded. This scattered them across the earth before the work could be completed. For a long time, this was considered a metaphor, but in 1913, archaeologist Robert Koldewey excavated the foundations of the Edamananke ziggurat in Babylon. Its base was a square measuring 91 meters on each side. Its reconstructed height reached an estimated 90 meters. This was a Bronze Age skyscraper. It was constructed from millions of baked bricks bound with natural bitumen. Nebuchadnezzar II, the Babylonian king, left an inscription. It claimed to have restored a tower whose foundation was ancient beyond memory. This tower was unfinished by earlier builders. He explicitly stated he was completing an existing, immensely old project, not starting anew. Linguists, too, have noted a peculiar fact. Despite their vast diversity, all human languages share common root structures. This points to a single origin. The Nostratic hypothesis suggests that around 15,000 years ago, all humanity spoke one language. Some event then caused this linguistic unity to fracture forever. The Bible provides a specific location and reason for this dramatic shift. This is a clarity science has yet to match. The fourth object leaves an indelible mark, even on those unfamiliar with Scripture. For the traces of its destruction have been unearthed in the very soil beneath archaeologists' shovels. These were Sodom and Gomorrah, two cities said to have been devastated by fire and sulfur. This was due to the inhabitants' transgressions, and they were long relegated to the realm of myth. Then, in 2021, a team led by James Kennett from the University of California published a study. This study was in Scientific Reports, investigating the ruins of Tal el Hammam near the Dead Sea. They discovered a layer of destruction that defied any ordinary explanation. Pottery in this layer had vitrified, melting at temperatures exceeding 2,000 degrees Celsius. This was far hotter than any natural fire or volcanic eruption in the region. The soil contained microscopic spherules of molten metal and shocked quartz. This form of glass is created only by immense, explosive force. It is identical to traces found at nuclear test sites and meteorite impact craters. The scientists concluded that around 1650 BC, a cosmic body exploded in the air above the city. This blast was comparable to, but far more powerful than, the 1908 Tunguska event. The shockwave instantly flattened all structures, and the immense heat vaporized organic material. The city, home to an estimated 8,000 people, lay abandoned for 600 years. Surrounding settlements within a 25-kilometer radius were also deserted. Total casualties were estimated between 40,000 and 65,000. The blast power, researchers calculated, was 1,000 times greater than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The land was so permeated with salt, propelled from the Dead Sea by the explosion. Nothing grew there for centuries. The Bible describes Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt. If a person were struck by such an extreme shockwave, carrying salt crystals at supersonic speeds, their body would indeed be encrusted in mineral deposits within seconds. The fifth biblical object served as both the strangest medical instrument in history. It is a symbol doctors worldwide still use today. In the book of Numbers, chapter 21, a plague of venomous snakes afflicted the Israelites. This happened in the desert. Moses, at divine instruction, fashioned a bronze serpent. He raised it on a pole, and all who looked upon it after a bite were healed. This object, named Nehushtan, was no mere metaphor. It existed physically in the Jerusalem temple for centuries. King Hezekiah destroyed it in the 8th century BC, 2 Kings 18:4. This was because the people had begun to worship it as an idol. Consider the timeline. Moses created it around the 13th century BC. Hezekiah dismantled it in 727 BC. The bronze serpent existed as a tangible artifact for nearly 500 years. Now, observe the emblem of the World Health Organization, a snake entwined around a staff. Look at the symbol for emergency medical services, a snake on a pole. While this might be attributed to the Greek staff of Asclepius, historians acknowledge the biblical image predates the Greek one by at least 500 years. Modern toxicology understands that for certain snakebites, the only effective treatment is an antivenom. This antivenom is derived from the venom of the very same snake. The principle of like cures like is embedded in Nehushtan. It was a bronze replica of a snake, healing from a real snake bite. Moreover, bronze possesses antibacterial properties, a fact only scientifically confirmed in the 21st century. Research from the University of Southampton in 2011 demonstrated that copper alloys destroy bacteria. They destroy bacteria on contact within minutes. Moses, it seems, chose a material with proven disinfectant action for his healing tool. This was 3 millennia before microbiology was even conceived. The sixth object cannot be touched, for its precise form remains unknown. Yet its function is described with startling clarity. The Urim and Thummim, mentioned in Exodus and Leviticus, were 2 items. They were placed in the high priest's breastplate. They were used to receive direct binary answers from God, yes or no. Go to war or not, or is this person guilty or innocent? This was not a tool for divination or casting lots. The first book of Samuel recounts King Saul's attempt to consult the Urim, only for no answer to be given, suggesting the system operated not mechanically, but selectively. The historian Josephus, writing in the 1st century AD, described how the stones on the high priest's breastplate would glow in a specific manner before battle if victory was promised. This happened if victory was promised, adding that this phenomenon had ceased 200 years before his time. Stripped of its religious context, we have a description of a binary communication device. Finally, the 7th object in our list was not hidden in a temple or encased in gold. It walked the earth, and the earth trembled beneath its feet, the Nephilim. Mentioned in Genesis chapter 6, this passage is one of the most mysterious in Scripture. In those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, they bore children to them. And these were the mighty men who were of old. These were the men of renown. The Hebrew word Nephilim derives from the root naphal. It means to fall or to descend, not mythical giants of folklore. They were a specific category of beings linked to non-human entities and humans. The apocryphal Book of Enoch, excluded from most biblical canons, but preserved in Ethiopian tradition, describes the Nephilim as reaching 300 cubits in height, an obvious literary exaggeration. If this figure is reduced tenfold, it still describes a being over 13 meters tall. The Bible, however, provides more grounded parameters for these mighty beings. Goliath, described in the first book of Samuel, stood 6 cubits and a span. He was approximately 2.9 meters tall, a truly imposing figure. His bronze armor weighed 5,000 shekels of copper, around 57 kilograms. His spearhead alone weighed 600 shekels of iron, nearly 7 kilograms. These are specific, measurable numbers describing Goliath's immense size and strength. King Og of Bashan, mentioned in Deuteronomy, slept on an iron bed 9 cubits long. This bed was 4 cubits wide, roughly 4 meters by 1.8 meters. This bed was preserved as a relic, meaning it could be seen and measured by all. It was not merely a legend, but a tangible piece of history. The Book of Numbers describes the spies sent by Moses into Canaan, returning with a report. We saw the Nephilim there, and we seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes. And we looked the same to them, the spies reported fearfully. The Anakim, a tribe of Nephilim, controlled the city of Hebron and its surrounding territories. Joshua eventually drove them out, but some fled to Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. It was from Gath, generations later, that Goliath eventually emerged. This suggests not isolated mythological giants, but an actual population that occupied specific territories. They were displaced to particular cities and left descendants behind, one of whom David eventually confronted in a historic battle. Archaeologists working in the Levant regularly uncover ancient structures with doorways exceeding 3 meters. They also find steps too inconvenient for people of average stature. These findings, while intriguing, rarely receive widespread attention or recognition. They challenge the established historical narrative of ancient times. But the most remarkable aspect is not just their existence, but their gradual fading. While in Genesis the Nephilim filled the earth, by the time of Joshua, they were reduced. They became scattered groups on the periphery of ancient lands. By the battle between David and Goliath, they were a disappearing species. The last individuals were cornered in a single city, their numbers dwindling. The Bible, in these accounts, chronicles not a legend, but a real, time extinction of a population, stretched across centuries, complete with specific dates, cities, and names. It detailed the names of its last known members, offering unique historical insight. We have explored 7 distinct objects, each leaving us with the same profound question. The Ark of the Covenant, operating like an electrical capacitor. Noah's Ark, designed with the optimal proportions of modern shipbuilding. The Tower of Babel, with a tangible foundation and a king's inscription. Sodom and Gomorrah, leaving behind geological evidence of an aerial explosion. Nehushtan, the bronze serpent, anticipating the symbol of medicine by millennia. It utilized a material with antibacterial properties only recently understood. The Urim and Thummim, functioning as a binary communication device. And the Nephilim, described not as fantastical monsters, but as a biological population. They had specific measurements, territories, and a recorded history of decline. Each of these objects, viewed in isolation, might be dismissed as a coincidence. It could be a translator's error, or an imaginative flourish of an ancient author. But when 7 such detailed accounts are found within the same ancient text, coincidence ceases. These accounts possess a remarkable degree of engineering or scientific precision. The people who wrote the Bible either witnessed technologies far beyond our current understanding, or they received information from those who possessed such knowledge in ancient times. In either case, we are left with a choice regarding this ancient book. We can continue to view this book as merely a collection of stories, or acknowledge it might be the most comprehensive technical report from the ancient world, a report we continue to read as if it were only literature. Thousands of years from now, someone might unearth our instructions for a microwave oven. If, by then, the knowledge of electricity has been lost, that person might well conclude they have found a prayer, a supplication to a fiery god, dwelling in an iron box. We may smile at the ancients, but perhaps the future will smile at us. They will smile at us in the very same way.